Hey everyone, this is episode 11 of the Something 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 Show, and I'm your host, Andy Wood. For those of you that do not know, this is the show where I talk about comic books and gaming. For the comic books, I will attempt to pass along some comic book news that you may or may not know. I'll let you in on what I've been reading this past week and what I think, and then also tell you about the new comic books coming out new this week. And since I'm also a gamer, I will again pass along some gaming news that you may or may not know, tell you about what I've been gaming and what I think. Comic book code, comic book code, comic book code. Hey! I don't know why I said that. Hey! Anyways, there should be a code around my head here. It's a comic book code. It could be a Marvel or a DC code. And in the show notes down below, there will be links where you can go to redeem your code. If it's a Marvel comic, you go to the Marvel site. If it's a DC comic, you go to the DC site. But it's a code where you can grab a fairly recent comic, you can download it, read it, it's free, it's comic books, it's cool. So there you go. For the comic book news this week, usually I have two big campaigns that I pull my news from. And what I mean by that is Marvel and DC. This week, however, I have some Dark Horse news. And some of you may not know this, but it would seem that Dark Horse will be launching a new Serenity comic book illustrated by Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I believe you pronounced it George Genty, and I probably said that wrong. Anyways, there is a new Serenity comic book coming out, and it's going to pick up right after the 2005 Serenity film. Now, again, like I said, usually I have news from Marvel and DC, and I already told you about the Serenity comics, so I hope you're happy about that. Now, this is kind of comic book related, but AMC, you know, the fine folks responsible for The Walking Dead, announced they have a Walking Dead spin-off series planned for 2015 where Robert Kirkman will be the executive producer. So, that's exciting. And do not forget, this week, Tuesday, September 24th at 5 p.m., check your local listings, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be premiering. Helmed by none other but Joss Whedon, and everyone should know that guy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Avengers, and it would seem that he also did some help on Thor, has their TV show coming in, and I'm really excited. I want to see what S.H.I.E.L.D. does on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. This is kind of like behind-the-scenes stuff, but I think it's going to be pretty darn exciting. One little scrutiny, they announced, or I read, and hopefully this isn't true, that the principal supervillain is Graviton. It's a guy that manipulates gravity, which can be cool, don't get me wrong, but he is like boring. He is so boring. So, anyways, I look forward to the show. I just hope Graviton is as menacing as they can, so it'll be exciting. So, hopefully we'll find out. Comic book code, comic book code, comic book code. Alright, if you're just tuning in, because for some reason you decided to skip to this point and you don't know what comic book code means, there's going to be a code, there's going to be a title of a comic, and that code you can take to a redemption website that's in the show notes. You can download the comic, it's free, you can read it, free comics. Enough said. Alright, so what have I been reading this week? This week I will not push or prompt or tell you about any of the DC supervillain titles. You need to experience them on your own. Because if you haven't gotten a hint after the last 3 weeks, the fourth week isn't going to matter. However, if we step into what I think has been one of the best X stories, and when I say X stories, I mean X-Men stories in the last 20 years, it's X-Men Battle of the Atom. And Part 4 is an Uncanny X-Men number 12. If you're an X-Men fan, this is a must-read. If you've been curious about X-Men stories, read this story. It is the best story in the last 20 years. I said that twice, and I will stand by that. Now, I also read New Avengers number 10, and this title has been really standing out by its own. This issue in particular picks up pretty much after Infinity 2 where it dropped off, and Black Bolt reveals the true origins of Thanos' plan. So check it out. In Superior Carnage number 3, it would appear that the Wizard finally has his Superior Carnage, and that he is in control of it. Or is he? The last comic book I want to tell you about that I've been reading this past week is Trillium number 2. It is by far the most unique sci-fi read I've ever had, but the story is so easy that you don't feel lost. So I highly recommend you check it out. What is new for the week of September 25th, 2013 for comics? Well, before I get into that, this is the very final week for the DC Supervillain 3D holographic comic book covers. And for the most part, a lot of them aren't even going to shelf because of the high demand with people starting up their savers and pull lists just to get these titles. So if you're not with your local comic book store locking in the titles you want, chances are you won't get them unless you're showing up on New Comic Book Day when the local comic book store opens up. Avengers Assemble number 19, an Infinity tie-in that focuses on Spider-Woman and Black Widow as it appears that they have come to the rescue. Rat Queens number 1. Who are the Rat Queens? They are a pack of booze-guzzling, death-dealing battle maidens for hire. And business is good. Scarlet Spider number 22. Kane's life is being ripped apart, piece by piece. Enter the new hunter. Comic book code, comic book code, comic book code. Alright, code, title, somewhere, get the code, pause the screen, do whatever you need to do, get the code, redeem it, hurry. Lots of people are saying they get these codes. It's a comic, it's free, read it. Tell me what you think about it. Now we move along to the gaming news. The console wars. No, it's not that big. I actually don't think there's that big of a console war going on because I think by this point, everyone has pretty much decided if they're going to go Sony or if they're going to go Microsoft. And then there's, of course, the majority of people that say, you know, I don't need to upgrade now. I have this huge library, and I'm having fun. But eventually, they're going to stop making the titles for the older generation. They're going to be making them only for the next generation. So, does that mean you're forced to upgrade? Not really. I just read a great article where a lot of the distributors, the developers, and whatnot, and the retailers are doing like a trade-up program, to where if you buy an Xbox 360 version or a PlayStation 3 version of a game, you can actually, later on when you get the next generation console, you can pay like 10 or 15 bucks, and you get that version of it. And then a lot of the titles like Call of Duty, I believe I read, that even the DLC will come with it. So that's pretty cool. On Monday, I believe, Valve is going to make some big announcements, and I believe it's 3 big bullet points, one of which I'm pretty sure is going to be about the Steam box, and that's all I know. So we have to wait until Monday. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very exciting news, and I look forward to it. I would be extremely remiss in my gaming news if I didn't mention Grand Theft Auto 5. I think it's really good news that on day one, they break sales records of over $800 million, and on day 3, it's over $1 billion. And it tells me one thing, and it's a great thing. It's fantastic for gamers because they're getting what they want. The publishers and the developers listen to their audience, they listen to the customers, and they gave them a product that they wanted. And that's fantastic news. That is without a doubt what every publisher and developer should do. Even though some they try and they get up against impossible, deadlines, stop it. If you want more happier, and that's a word, gamers, give us what we want. I mean, within reason, Now, I really hate to do this, but I'm going to take that extremely good news and I need to flip it. I want to talk about something that strikes a little bit of a chord with me, and it has to do with the media and violent video games. And the incredibly tragic incident that happened at the shooting at the naval shipyards. The media already has found out that the gentleman, and I don't want to say his name because I want no attention towards him, the attention should be towards the victims, that he played first-person shooter games, Call of Duty. And right there they're saying it's because of violent video games that this happened. They are wrong. I have been playing video games since Pong. Look it up. That Pong is a very old game. I have been playing tabletop games like Risk. You don't see me trying to do world domination from, Madagascar to the Congo, or from Irkutsk to Kamchatka. You don't see me doing that. I've played games like Dungeons & Dragons and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. You don't see me putting on chainmail, getting on my mighty steed and my very sharp two-handed sword and cutting people in half. Stop blaming video games. You don't know what you're talking about. Personally, myself, I think it all starts at the home. You're just wrong, okay? There's just so many parts of wrong that you're wrong about. And one case in point is I read about a 5-year-old French boy that was so overwhelmed with joy because he got a copy of Grand Theft Auto 5. This is a 9-year-old child that you gave a video game to that's intended for 18 and above. You know, I understand about peer pressure that if he didn't get the game, his friends would probably make fun of him or they'd be talking about the game and he'd be sad and depressed and stuff like that. I understand that. There's other video games that 9-year-olds should be playing. And I don't think they have to be Winnie the Pooh or Tinkerbell builds a castle or something like that. They just need to be responsible parents and stop buying violent video games for minors. Grow up. Be a responsible adult. And again, that's my opinion. So what have I been playing in video games? Well, as most of you may or may not know, I say it like that because maybe you don't care, or maybe you're just finding out, is I just wrapped up Batman Arkham City, which is my warm-up for Batman Arkham Origins. And I had completely forgotten about the Harley DLC, and I went back and played. And then again, since I had the Game of the Year version of Batman Arkham City, I went through and unlocked all the skins that Batman had and played those through, and I showed those. And I thought they were really cool. I mean, you had the 1970s, you had the Earth One, Year One, really cool outfits. I mean, if you've read the stories, you can see that they're pretty darn good representations of the suits. My favorite is, I'm going to have to say the Frank Miller, because the Frank Miller story of Batman, he was just more dense and gritty and edgy, and good story, by the way, too. Also, Wizards of the Coast came out with additional DLC for Duels of the Planeswalkers 2014, so you got more decks, you got more campaign, you got more challenge, and for those of you that played any Magic, and you're familiar with the term Bant, when Bant was in rotation, when it was part of Standard, and again, if you know what that means, Bant was a SOB. And in this game, there's a deck that's Bant. And it's, guess what? It's an SOB. But it's fun. It's good Magic stuff. And I also bought the State of Decay. It's $20 or $19.99. It's early access through Steam, and this is a direct raw console port. Don't expect a flashy, cool, shiny game. I mean, it's a game, it works, but there's a lot of problems, and they know it. And everyone that's going into this early access should know it. I think it's going to be a great addition to the PC library, but I'm waiting for them to actually push out some more fixes before I hop in and start doing any Let's Play. And I think it's going to be a fun game, a great zombie game. So if you like zombies, if you like building stuff, if you like open-ended survival games, this is going to be a good game. But don't get into the early access because you want to play a game. Don't do that. You've been warned. And folks, that is the show for this week. I certainly hope you were entertained. I hope you had fun. If you were not having fun, I'm sorry. Let me know what was wrong. Again, thank you for all the feedback. I like all the thumbs up I've been getting for everything. If you want to see something different, let me know. In fact, send me questions. Send me questions about comic books, about video games, about pizza, donuts, because I know quite a bit about those things. Again, thank you very much for coming, and don't forget, next Wednesday is what? That's right, it's New Comic Book Day. Find your local comic book store, pay them a visit. I'm sure you can find something you'll like. Thanks a lot. See you next week. Hello, everyone. This is GTA 5. The GTA 5 show. And I am your host, GTA 5 Andy.